Be warned, these stories feature mature themes such as horror, murder, death and the occult. Viewer discretion is advised.
This world is a strange one. There's got to be more after death, but what must lie beyond that is so torturous and horrid that spirits come back just to torment the living? What horrors await us after our inevitable demise? I'm not sure, but I do know that there are unimaginable horrors happening as we speak. And here are 3 such stories. 3 scary true ghost stories and phantom encounters, in fact. Buckle in and grab your Bible. You're gonna need something to throw at the ghosts. Number 1. Ghost on the Elevator. I work the night shift at a talk radio station in Toronto, Ontario, one that has been broadcasting since the late 1920s. As with any company with a lengthy history, there have always been stories circulating about how previous owners still visit the station to make sure things are running smoothly. I, of course, always passed this off as either the product of overactive imaginations or a way to freak out the late-night staff. One evening, after arriving at work at about 10 p.m., I was greeted by an eccentrically dressed woman who was a guest on one of our station's programs. Her segment was finished and she was getting ready to leave. She said, "I guess I'll have to take the elevators then." As she was turning to exit the room, I said, "Oh no, take the stairs. You'll need a key to use the elevators this time of night." She stopped dead in her tracks and calmly told me that there are far too many ghosts in the stairwell to walk down them alone, something I do every day. She then introduced herself as a popular local psychic who was asked on the program to reveal her predictions for the new year. She told me that she could sense the spirits of both the former station manager and a few ex-employees still roaming the building, a hotspot being the stairwell. She then asked me if I could escort her down to the front door by way of the elevator, since I had a key. On our brief ride down, the station is on the 2nd floor, she told me that even the elevators will act strangely due to the high traffic of spirits. I kindly acknowledged her slightly odd remarks and directed her to the front door. Upon re-entering the elevator to go back to the 2nd floor, the same one I had taken down, the doors closed, but the buttons would not respond when I pushed them. I leaned on the number 2 button until the elevator finally started to move. But it didn't stop at the 2nd floor. It went right up to the 11th floor, the floor on which the station manager's office is located. The doors opened, but no one was there. The elevator shook slightly, as if it were taking on a passenger, and then the doors closed. The 1st floor button was activated from the inside of the elevator, and I wasn't the one who pushed it. The elevator quickly descended the 11 flights to the lobby. When the doors opened, again, I saw no one. The elevator again shuddered slightly, as if someone had just walked through the doors, and I heard empty footsteps echoing through the marble lobby, all with no one in sight. I'll never know who or what rode with me that night, but I know I'd better behave myself on my long night shifts. The former boss might just be watching. Number 2. Gray Summit Haunting. I live in a haunted house in Gray Summit, Missouri. I have lived here for 24 years with my husband, and we have 2 young children. It has taken me many years to get used to sharing my house with something that really doesn't want us to be there. When my kids were toddlers, they would talk to the people and see things. I wouldn't tell them that it wasn't real, and that it was just their imagination, because that's just plain insulting to their common sense, so consequently they now have a much more calm acceptance of ghosts and other things. I still get shook up though, but mostly just annoyed. For those of you who have never lived with ghosts but think that it would be cool, let me enlighten you. I will never again in my life go to sleep without a light on. For I now know that there are things in the dark that will get right within inches of your face to stare at you while you're sleeping. I no longer even wake my husband to tell him I'm going to the bathroom and to stay awake and listen until I get back. And he doesn't wake me up either. We've both gotten used to the feeling of someone accompanying us back and forth. But it's still horrifying. We've had people come to our home who have seen a woman. Our neighbors from across the street called one day last fall and asked about the woman in white in our upstairs window. They called us about 5 minutes after we had a family discussion about the ghost. We had stated that we thought maybe she had moved on, since we hadn't heard or seen from her in a while. What is unnerving is that she listens to our private conversations. I got the idea to try to capture something on film, and it worked big time. I bought a tape recorder and a digital camera and immediately started getting results. We set up the tape and went to work and played it back that night. It has really shook all of us. It sounds like someone living there when we're not home. They also banged on the recorder in anger. It was moved from where we sat, and there was a man's voice saying very clearly, "This is my house." This was just in April, so who would say that after we've been here all these years? Capturing orbs here has gotten so commonplace, we no longer get excited over them. But on one of the last set of pictures I took, I got a couple of shots that were very bizarre. There's one of the living room with the TV off, but half on the screen and half off is a picture that looks like a medieval village. We're talking castle, stone bridge, cottages. The other picture is in the family room, and on a painting on the wall of a scene is the very clear image of a man from the shoulders up. He's looking right at the camera. Who is he? We always assumed we just had a woman ghost. This unnerves me more, thinking there must be more than one. One day a couple of weeks ago, I stayed home from work due to the flu. I stayed in bed and everyone else left for school and work. It was gloriously quiet for about 20 minutes, and then someone came down the stairs. Let me stress that this sounded so real, I was sure someone had been hiding up there and assumed we had all left as usual. I almost had a heart attack. They came down, the door at the bottom opened, they went to the sink, glasses rattled, the water turned on then off, and they moved around some more. I was in my bedroom right off the kitchen lying there just thinking, they don't know I'm here. They are going to find me, and they are going to kill me, so I won't be a witness. When a person is really frightened, a severe cold sets in, and they start to shake. This was so with me. I lay there for a long time and waited until I finally got the nerve to go look. As usual, nothing. The doors were locked, and everything was fine. There are many strange things I could write about, but time won't permit. Let me just say that there's nothing cool or neat about this. It's not good for one's health to experience such things on a regular, daily basis. And the ghost that is stuck here on this plane for whatever reason is not a happy one, and is in no mood to make small talk. We have found that they seem to want to make us unhappy as they are. Number 3. Chinese Ghost. Around the years of 1983 and 1985, I was in An Giang, Vietnam. At that time in the rural areas, the transportation was still very limited after 10 o'clock in the evening. Finished doing business, I found out that there was no more transportation to go back to my town. The only option I had was going to stay with a friend of mine from high school who was working for a cigarette company nearby. After greeting and showing that we were happy to see each other, I told him about my problem, that I had to wait until the next morning in order to get transportation back to my hometown. He told me that it was not a problem at all if I have the nerve to sleep there overnight, in that cigarette company, because he was the only one who gets paid to stay there at night to guard the place. I asked him what was wrong with the place. He looked at me and seriously told me that there was a ghost. A woman ghost came every night. Therefore, nobody wanted to sleep there beside him. I looked at him and smiled. I said that I was always curious about this kind of stuff, and besides, I've never believed in ghosts anyway. After a long conversation with him about each other, about family and friends, we decided to go to sleep. We slept on a big wooden board that had 4 tall holding legs that people around here usually used as a bed. There was a very dim light that came all the way from the end of the building. However, it was good enough to see a few things. Soon after my friend fell asleep, I began to look around because it was not easy for me to sleep in a strange place. I suddenly saw something that was moving toward us. It moved fast compared to a normal walking speed of a human. Soon I realized that it was a black figure, a woman figure with hair that cut straight at shoulder length, a hairstyle of a Chinese woman. In just only a few seconds, she was already standing next to the bed outside of the mosquito net. By this time, I was completely frozen, but only my eyes were staring at this figure. I couldn't move. I felt like something held me still, or I was on the bottom of a rock which weighed 1,000 pounds. I tried to kick, and I tried to move my hand so I could wake up my friend who slept next to me like a baby. All my limbs were completely locked with fear. I stared at this figure. I saw that her clothes were very simple, like those of a Chinese woman. Don't forget that there were a lot of Chinese in Southeast Asia, especially Vietnam at this time. The only thing that I couldn't see was her face, which was completely black. The figure leaned forward. Her face got close to mine, like she checked me out, or perhaps she wanted to know who this new man was. I wanted to scream out loud, wake up my friend, but I couldn't even open my mouth. It was like my lips were glued. She kept staring at me for at least 5 seconds before she turned away and walked back to the end of the building and disappeared. It took me at least 5 to 10 minutes to get back my consciousness. I woke up my friend with sweat on my forehead, just like I had a fever. I told my friend what happened. He said that he was scared from the beginning when he took the job as an overnight guard, but he got used to it because he saw that figure, a Chinese ghost, all the time, every night. I could never imagine experiencing such a day-to-day horror. People live, people die, and then something else comes back. But is it really the spirit of the dead person? Or is it a demonic entity that uses the guise of that dead person to get close to us, only to reveal ulterior motives? Motives such as smothering us in our sleep, destroying our belongings while we're gone, and making life a living hell. Good night.